What's up guys, Mathematics Pals, and today I've got a video. It's a little bit different. I'm going to be tier listing Pokemon types. I'm a big fan of Pokemon types, talking about it. I think it's a fun topic, and it's easier than like ranking like Pokemon of a type or something like that, or starters or legends, because there's a lot that I'm indifferent towards, or I've never used before. Delphox is a great example. I like Delphox's design, and I think it's a cool typing, but I've never actually used Delphox, so in-game, I have no idea, if I like it or not. Like Crustle, I love Crustle's design, and I still really like Crustle, but Crustle is not my favorite Pokemon to use in the world. Not a great typing, it's kind of cool, but it's not a great typing. It's slow, it's just not my playstyle. So like I can rank it because I've used it before. I like its design, so it'd still be, and I still like the Pokemon. But it's not my favorite to use. I can rank that. I can rank something like Emboar, and I can rank a lot of the starters, but I haven't used all of them. Some it's kind of obvious. I haven't used Greninja. I don't think I've used Greninja in game, but like it's Greninja. I know what it does, and I know I would most definitely like it given other Pokemon I like. But it's hard to make that judgment for a lot of Pokemon. The types, I've used all the types before, in some capacity. I know what I like. I know what I dislike. I know what I build with, and I know what types work with what I build with, what enhance the different types that I use a lot, and what, doesn't. So, first off is Bug. I'm going to put Bug in B tier. I recorded the first, 30. You'll see me stumbling a lot in this, because I don't really record things like this. It's definitely not scripted, off the cuff. But Bug is a good type. It's not a great type, and it's definitely not the best in older games, but newer games, I think there's a lot of cool bug types: Heracross, Scyther, and Scizor, Scolipede, Galvantula, and big thing for me is it resists ground. You'll see later on as I talk about more types and what I build with, that is a really big resist for me to have. I usually am looking for, as I build my teams, I look at what resistances I'm not, or what types I'm not covering well resist-wise. A lot of times I'm sitting there needing a grass fighting type, a water steel type, something along the lines of that. Bug is a ground resist. I'm always weak to ground. Always weak to ground. I can usually offensively hit it with something, but I'm always weak to it. So Bug type is nice. I mean, obviously not all, like some of the ones I named there, right? Except for Scyther. Scolipede is neutral. Scizor and Galvantula are all neutral because electric, steel, and poison are weak to ground on Bug resist, so they're neutral. But a lot of times, I enjoy using a lot of bug types. I think there's a lot of cool ones. There's even the ones that aren't as good still have some pretty cool designs. Mini rant. I don't like that there's so many Pokemon that have just awful stat spreads, like Lantern. 126 HP and then nothing besides that. It's very difficult to use some of these Pokemon when their stats are just that bad. So, but aside from that, right, and there's a lot of bug types that are weaker. I think there's a lot of cool bug types. And it's a type I enjoy using. It's much better nowadays. So, Dark, I'm going to tentatively put in S tier. I'll probably put a lot of things in S tier and then drop them down later and give my thoughts on why I dropped them a tier. But there's a core, fairly large amount of types that I really build around. Types that I use often. Types that I look at and think, okay, I'm missing this type. I need to add it. There's some types that it's not like, oh man, I don't have insert this, I have to have it. Dark is one of those. I generally try to have a Dark type on my team. The biggest reason for this is its super effectiveness. It hits Ghost and Psychic super effectively. Ghost does this as well, but Ghost is weak to itself, and Dark is immune to Psychic. So if I use a Dark type, Ghost types hit me resist, and Psychic hits me immune. If I'm a Ghost type, I'm going to get neutral by Psychic, and I'm weak to myself with Ghost. So I prefer the Dark type because of that. That's the biggest thing to have a Dark type, for me to have a Dark type, is that. What else? I don't think Dark has a huge weakness in resistance, right? Fighting resistant, Dark resistant, Steel in the... up until Gen 5, Steel resisted Ghost and Dark. Now they're both neutral, keep that in mind. And then Fighting and Bug hit it super effectively. Dark and Ghost resist. Psychic's immediate. Fairy super effective. But the big thing is for the Ghost and Psychic types. I think, it's good to have something to hit, to deal with those. And Dark is my go-to for that over Ghost. And what else? I'll check. What else does Psychic? Or what else resists Psychic? Steel resists Psychic, and then Psychic resists Psychic. And then for Ghost, it's just Dark and what's Steel, but now Steel isn't, so it's just Dark. You can be immune if you have a normal type. We'll get to that later. But for now, Dark is in the S tier, because I think it's key to have those, because I think it's the best thing and the easiest thing to counter those two types. Next is Dragon. I'm going to put in the B tier as well, because Dragon resists Water, Fire, Grass, Electric. It's weak to Ice, which is a late game type. It's weak to itself. Not a common type at all. I guess with Ghost types, you know, you're switching out, but I guess if you're a Ghost type, right, you're switching out. I guess you could hit yourself super effectively, but if you don't kill, you know, you're taking a lot of damage or something. There's nothing to switch into for Ghost. I guess it's kind of the same with Dragon. Not a lot of things resist Dragon. Oops, I need to have OBS up. That was the wrong button. Dragon is, yeah, resisted by Steel and then Fairy. I do think I'm more likely myself to have a Fairy type or a Steel type on the team than to have a normal type on the team. I'll try not to, I don't want to like spoil all my thoughts on everything, but it's got a lot of good resist in the core types, and it hits things neutrally. Its weaknesses, you know, Fairy, Ice itself. The big thing about Dragon types is while there's a lot of cool ones, it's hard to use sometimes, because like Hydreigon evolves level 64 from Zweilous, who evolves level 50, and Zweilous is more of a physical attacker and Hydreigon's more of a special attacker. So balancing that in-game is a pain in the ass. And there's a lot of Pokemon like that. Like I've played through Moon. I got a Dratini off of Wonder Trade, because I like to play with Wonder Trade Pokemon. You get a lot of cool, interesting stuff instead of things you'll normally get in-game, and when Wonder Trade goes away for the 3DS, then I can just go back to using those regular things in-game. But this is an opportunity that's limited to use really cool stuff. Even in the new games, Sword and Shield, I can use things I get off of Wonder Trade, but, you know, there's not Pokemon that you normally couldn't get, because you could technically get all those Pokemon in the game. You don't get Piplup normally in Moon with Defiant. You don't get that in Sword and Shield either, but, you know, a lot of Pokemon you get, oh, well, that's not gonna just go catch in the wild area or something like that, you know? But, a lot of Dragon types, they evolve at such high level. Depending on the game, sometimes the level you're at isn't going to be enough for that Dragon type to evolve. So that's the biggest thing for me with the Dragon types, is that, like Haxorus, fine. Hydreigon, that's going to be very difficult to use. Even the ones that evolve at 50 and 50 not as much, but 55 especially. It can be very, you know, sometimes the game that you're playing, the dragons just don't evolve by that point. So that's what's going to hold Dragon down. And they are a more exclusive type, so there's not as many of them. And definitely not a Pokemon, a type you get early game. But that's fine. Next is Electric. Electric is going to tentatively go in the S tier as well. I think Electric is really good. It's only weak to Ground. It hits, what? Ground is immune, and I think it's resisted by itself, Grass, and Dragon. And I think it hits everything else neutrally. So Electric is just a generally hard-hitting type. A lot of them Pokemon are offensive. I like a lot of electric types. Overall, it's one of those that I normally try to get. I prefer it to Grass as well as a type. So water's only weaknesses are electric and grass. So you have to have one of them too. And I tend to like electric types more than grass types, and I tend to like electric type more than grass type. So that's a big thing, because if, you know, I don't have electric, I have to have a grass type. And you want to be able, in my opinion, to hit every singular type super effectively when playing in-game. I know some people like argue, oh, this Pokemon's really good because it hits all the important people super effectively, or it's not as good, but there's a whole game in between that. Obviously, those are the tough trainers, like the Elite Four is tough. So you want to be able to hit, you know, the Elite Four members super effectively. But I don't think, you know, Emboar is any better or worse because fighting type, if he beats Grimsley, you know? If Grimsley was, I don't know, a electric trainer, you know, that's not going to change my opinion on Emboar and how good Emboar is in the game. But, shoot, what was I talking about? I completely lost track. Went onto that tangent. Electric type of those overall good. I think, oh yeah, I think you want to be able to hit everything at least super effectively. And, you know, you gotta have electric or grass for water types. I think electric is better of those types. Grass has a lot of weaknesses. So, Fairy is going into the S tier, tentatively. Again, things can move down. I think Fairy is likely to stay in the S tier. Fairy beats Dragon types, very nice, but it's also a resist to Dark and Bug and Fighting. Specifically Dark and Fighting, I think it's really useful. Dark is, let's see, Dark is weak to Fighting and Bug, I think, besides Fairy types. And, you know, older games especially, Bug is not a great offensive type, so Fairy's just another way at Dark types, which I think are just a good type as well. Only weak to Poison and Steel. So those aren't the most common offensive types either. I think Fairy is just overall a really useful type to have. Other ways to resist, you know, dang it, I clicked on OBS again. You know, Dark type again. Fighting resisted, Dark itself resisted Steel used to, though it doesn't now. And then Fighting is resisted by Flying, Bug, Poison, and Psychic. So there are, you know, other ways to counter them, but I think Fairy is just a good way to counter them. So I really enjoy Fairy. I like a lot of Fairy types as well. A lot of the newest Pokemon in the games, Ribombee, Alcremie, Primarina, all of those Pokemon I really like. A lot of Pokemon I like got the Fairy typing, like Gardevoir and Azumarill. So Fairy typing, I love Fairy typing. I think it's a great type. Fighting. Like I said, I'm going to tentatively put a lot in S tier and move stuff down. Fighting is going to go into S tier with a chance of dropping. Fighting is another one I use a good amount. You know, I'm going to drop it to A. I don't think it's quite at the other types. Fighting hits normal types super effectively. Rock, Dark, Steel, and Ice super effective. So it's a lot of things super effective. It's just by Flying, Bug, Poison, Fairy, and Psychic again. And it's Ghost is immune. Resists normal, resists normal, weak to Flying, Psychic, and Fairy. Resist Rock, resist Bug, and resist Dark. Fighting's really good, but I hesitate to put it. I hesitate to put it in the, you know, the tier. Oh yeah, I gotta make sure my thing stays aligned because I trimmed this, so I don't want it to accidentally. Or I trimmed the window in OBS so you don't see the entire screen. I'll make sure that doesn't get unadjusted if I scroll. Oh, accidentally scroll. I did not though. There's just something about fighting types though that I want to put a little bit lower. It might be just I don't like as many fighting types as other types. I typically use them in Gen 5 though, and more recently, I've used Scrafted recently. Though if I use Darmanitan, I'll forego a fighting type in Gen 5, and I'll just have Darmanitan hitting with, you know, Brick Break or something. Because Darmanitan hits really hard. What other games? I guess I do use fighting type a good amount. I think in all the teams I've used recently, and the ones I've liked, I've generally had a fighting type. But I kind of want to just put it in A for now. I guess I feel like I can live without it, because what does fighting type? What does fighting type hit super effectively then? Fighting hits normal. Okay, normal. It is nice to hit normal type super effectively. Normal types aren't hitting anything back super effectively. So flying resist. Okay, it hits rock super effectively. It hits dark and it hits steel and it hits ice. Let's see. What I'm just trying to think overall. What other types hit those? I yawn a lot. I always yawn when I have to record. I don't know why. When I'm not recording like Beyblade, or if I'm streaming, I yawn all the time. So what else hits? I feel like with Fairy, you know, I have Fairies a lot and hit Dark types, and I feel like other types have ways for me to hit Steel and Ice. So I feel like I can cover Fighting type decently well. I'm going to put in the A tier. It could move back up. We'll see. Fire is going tentatively in the S tier. Fighting is... What fire? Fire is... I love fire types. There's a lot of fire types I really like. I enjoy using fire types. They hit, what? Grass, Bug, Ice, Steel off the top of my head. I think that's it. Which is a nice, you know, slate of types to hit. Grass and Bug are fairly common. It's weak to Water, Rock, and Ground. Fire, I just like fire types. It's another type that I build often with. Part of the reason I don't even want to play Diamond and Pearl is just because there's two fire types. Ah, more. There's two fire types. There's the Infernape line and the Rapidash line. I hate that. I love fire types. This is for... I like all the evolutions. This goes for all of them, but Flareon, and go for any type with an evolution. There's Infernape. All the starters are overall nice. I like some more than others. Darmanitan, Chandelure, two favorites, Talonflame, Magmar. All those are favorites. I love a lot of fire types. There's a lot of fire. When I'm leveling up in Sword and Shield, fire and dark are like the two most common types right now. Where it's like, let's see, what types do I need to level up? Not fire, dark. I've got like 6 of each. Fire is just a favorite type. It's less having to do with how it fits with my teams. I mean, it fits and it's good to have, but I usually really like the type, the Pokemon in it. Flying, I'm gonna put in B tier. It's another ground resist, which is why it's not gonna go further lower than that. I don't use flying types as much. I like a lot of early ones, but there's some cool late game ones like Gliscor. I don't use flying type as much. It's mainly there. There's a few Pokemon I like a lot in flying. Crobat, Talonflame, Staraptor, Gliscor, all really cool. Scyther's cool. Some of those Pokemon are not as easy to get in each game or in different games. Swallow, I like Swallow too. Jeez, I yawn whenever I record. That's just how it is. But yeah, besides that, I mainly like flying as a ground resist. It does hit bug and grass super effectively, but again, I have fire rated higher. I have fire on my team a lot. And then fighting hits fighting super effective, which is nice. Before Fairy was flying or psychic, so that is a nice thing. And in older games, that is big. Even though they're all like normal flying types, so fighting hits neutrally back. But flying's a good type. I like flying types. Ghosts. Ooh, this is tough. I really like Chandelure. I like Gengar too. Gengar's cool. I think I'll put Ghost in C tier though. It's a really nice offensive type because except for normal, Dark is what is resisted to it. I think that's it, right? We looked over this earlier, but I'll confirm. Yeah, I can't normal Dark. It used to not be able to still, but now can. So really, it can hit everything neutrally. It's just part of it's like a purely offensive type in a way, because it's not really great defensively. It's kind of just neutral with a lot of things. It's weak to Dark in itself. So I guess that's solid defensively because it's not weak to a lot of things, but it's not. It's not hitting a lot of things super effectively is the problem for me. I hit a lot of things neutrally, but I've got a bajillion I mean, I've got 6 members of my team, so there's always going to be things that hit things neutrally. It doesn't help my team out because if I have a Dark type, then that's completely redundant. That's my problem with Ghost types. If I've got a Dark type on my team, Ghost typing itself feels completely redundant. I can hit something neutrally really hard if I'm trying to level something up, you know? I don't have to switch out into something that's super effective. But generally speaking, like, if I've got a Dark type, why do I need to have Ghost type? Crocodile hits Psychic and Ghost type super effectively. Takes less damage from them than the Ghost type would. So, I gotta put Ghost in the C tier because of that. Grass is also gonna go in the C tier. I like a lot of grass types, but grass is just, for me, I almost always just want it because it's a resist to ground. Because I'm more likely using an electric type, which is weak to ground, so it's gonna have the grass type there. It does resist water while hitting it super effectively back with electric, which electric doesn't. So there are benefits to grass, but part of my reasoning here is this was not a good team to begin with, but I had an Ultramoon, Decidueye, Magnezone, Zoroark, Noivern, Slavol, and Lycanroc. I kind of just caught Pokemon as I went and was like, this is a cool Pokemon, I want to use it. And if, you know, Honchkrow and Hawlucha were there, they dropped off and I went with Noivern and Zoroark instead. This team had a problem. It did not have any ground coverage because Lycanroc doesn't get that until move tutors. Otherwise it gets no ground coverage at all, which is awful. It had no ice type, no water type, no fairy. And I was sitting there thinking, man, what would I do to replace Decidueye with Primarina? Oh my gosh, now I can't hit water type. Oh no, I can't water type. What was it the grass did? Grass was a resist to something. Was it ground? I guess it was ground in this case, because I had 3 weaknesses to ground, but I thought to myself, I'd rather just have Primarina, take it neutrally, and just super effectively pack, because water and fairy would be so much better on this team than what grass is. I think grass gives some nice resists. Like bug and flying, it's a ground resist, but for me, that's the main thing it does. It's a ground resist. Other than that, everything that grass, you need grass for, it hits. God. It's ground super effective, it's rock, it's fire, water, but I generally have an electric and a water type, so I can hit all those 3 types effectively. It resists water, which is nice. I have a water type a lot of times, and that resists water as well. I think, and then Dragon. Dragon's the other one. That resists water. Water, Dragon, Grass, I believe, are the 3. Water is a really good type. But I just don't love grass types as much, so. Ground, easy S tier. Only will hit electric types super effectively, and electric types are really annoying because of static and paralyzation with different moves. So that's really nice being able to hit them super effectively. Exception being Emolga and Eelektross. I know, like, technically Mold Breaker, Earthquake exists, but that's, you know, again, insanely, like, niche. Or not niche, but that's, you know, insanely rare. There's not many. You'd have to have specifically a Mold Breaker mon, and specifically one that has a ground move to, you know, Eelektross. So, generally speaking, you know, that's the only thing ground types aren't really hitting is, like, those 2. There might be another electric flying type, or Choreo, is that electric flying? It might be. But, yeah, ground, super, super good. It hits fire and electric super effectively. It hits steel super effectively. It hits poison super effectively. It's rock super effectively. It's weak to water, grass, and ice. Water and grass are, you know, fairly common, but you've got a full team to take that. And that's the same with all these types. You do have a full team to go through all of these. Some of them, you know, if you think my logic is a bit backwards, or you don't like reasoning for some of these, you know, it is preference. I don't prefer Ghost to a grass type as much, even though you can make the same arguments for, you know, in their favor too. The ground is really good. A lot of ground types I like. Crocodile and Excadrill specifically. I love Crocodile and Excadrill. I use them a lot in Gen 5. Other ground types, I like Golem. Golem's cool. I've always liked using them in Kanto. Well, I cannot stop yawning. I feel like there's other ground types if I thought harder. I mean, there are other ground types I like if I thought harder. I'm just not thinking hard. But ground is a good type. Ground's a really good type. I use a lot of ground types. Swamp's a good one. I use ground types often. That's usually when it's like, okay, if I'm trying to build a team and I've built a few teams and I'm narrowing them down, ground is one of the things like, okay, this doesn't have a ground type, that's an issue. Because I just think electric's one thing you need to hit super effectively, and you have to have ground to do that. Ice is going in the B tier. I love ice types, and I love ice as a type. I love ice as an element. Ice is not a great type because it's horrible defensively. It resists itself and is weak to fire, fighting, rock, and steel. It does hit dragon super effectively though, which is big. Hits grass super effectively. It's dragon, grass, ground super effectively, which is nice. If you have freeze dry, you get water type super effectively. Ice type would be probably C or D. If it weren't for that, I like them a lot, so it's higher. There's no real reason other than that. I just like ice types, so they're higher. Normal, I'm putting in D tier because normal type is, you get a lot of coverage moves as a normal type. Normal types generally hit a lot of things super effectively, or not a lot of things, they have a lot of variety. You know, like Clefable's not a normal type anymore, but you know, Eradicate even, Snorlax, Pokemon like that, they get a lot of coverage moves. You know, you take randomly for whatever reason, you know, Thunderbolt, you know, and stuff like that, and give a lot of coverage. But as a type, they hit what? They hit nothing super effectively. They're resisted by fighting and steel, and Ghost is immune, so they do it a lot of things neutrally, but they don't resist anything. And they don't do anything super effectively. Well, except Ghost. Ghost is immune. Ghost and normal are immune to each other. But unless I really like a normal type, I'm not usually using a pure normal type, so it's going in D. Probably the only thing in D, if I'm being honest. Well, maybe, maybe not. I'm gonna put Poison C. It's super effective against fairy types. And I do like, you know, there's a handful of poison types I can think of offhand that I like. Some are dual, like, you know, Venusaur and Scolipede. Crobat, I think of, well, I guess that's more. I think of Venusaur and Scolipede as a grass type and a bug type more. Crobat's more split. Same with Salazzle. I love Salazzle too. So, being able to hit fairy super effectively is why it's at C tier. Otherwise, it's a really obnoxious to fight. Not much else. I don't particularly love poison type. It's a fine type. It's in C tier mainly because it can hit fairy super effectively. Psychic, I'm going to put in C tier. I don't love a lot of Psychic types, and that's the biggest thing. I don't hate it as a type or anything. I think it's really nice being able to hit fighting types super effectively. I think it's nice about poison type super effectively because they're quite annoying. And then as a resist, it resists fighting, which is nice, and it resists itself, which is nice. It hits a lot of things, you know, generally hard because Psychic isn't resisted by a ton, but I don't like a lot of Psychic types. I'm going to be leveling up at Alakazam, and we'll see what my opinions on Alakazam, because leveling up Pokemon post-game and just kind of using them to do general battles, or in this case, finding the Elite Four tournament over and over again to get money to EV Train. Yeah, I don't play competitively, but I've been EV training this gen because I can for like the first time. It's like not difficult for me, and it's not annoying. It's not tedious. It's not a hassle. I know some people like doing, you know, the old EV training way. Matt, if you're watching this, I know you do. Not for me. But Psychic types, I don't love a lot of Psychic types. We'll see how I like about Alakazam. I do like Gardevoir and Gallade, but Psychic types just aren't my thing. So I'm gonna put the C here mainly for that. Kind of like the inverse of Ice. I think Psychic's a better type than Ice, but I like Psychic types less, and I use them less, a lot less. So I always look, there's a lot of Ice types I always look and try to build around, even though it can be difficult. A lot of times Psychic is left off of my teams, and that's why Psychic's can be C tier. I know it's really good in older gens. Okay, Rock. I need to look at Rock's type chart real quick. So Rock is good against Fire, Flying, Bug, and Ice. Not good against Fighting, Ground, and Steel. And then it's weak to Water, Grass, Fighting, Ground, and Steel. And it resists Fire, Flying, and Poison. Honestly, I never, ever use Rock types. I don't like a Rock type as a type. I'm putting D tier. Rock types are defensive. It's nice. They're very slow, which isn't my playstyle. I prefer decently fast Pokemon. Though having Bulk is nice, but they're weak to so much. And again, I'll go through what they hit, right? Main thing is, okay, so resists, first of all, resists. They resist fire? Yeah, they resist fire. I almost always have a water type. They resist flying. I have a steel type a lot of the times, and electric type. They resist, what else? Oh wait, whoops, I was looking at the wrong thing. That's okay. But it's still, yeah, I was looking through, okay, now I'm keep looking at the final back. So fire, flying, and then poison. Poison's just not a great type. Again, I have steel types a lot. So it's defensively, you know, I usually have other things to cover all the things it resists that I use often, right? Because I mean, if I didn't use some of those types often, right? Like I didn't use steel types often, then okay, there's more of a reason I have a rock type. But I use steel types a lot, and that's flying and poison right there. The only one is fire, but I use water types a lot, and I use fire types a lot, so, you know, I cover those easy. Super effective, it hits fire super effectively, but again, I have a water type often. Hits bug super effectively. I have a fire type often. Hits ice super effectively, and ice is weak to a ton of stuff. Weak to flying. I usually have an electric type, though. I don't really like a lot of rock types. Or I like a decent amount of rock types. Like Eagle is cool, Golem, Crustle, but I don't enjoy using them as much, especially in newer games. Like I use Crustle. I leveled up Crustle, but he's a bit of a pain to use because he's just slow. And there's so many weaknesses too. And Rock Bug is not a great type. But generally speaking, that's just my thing with rock types, is a lot of them don't have stat spreads I like, and I don't have great memories using them. Gigalith was on a team that was really slow, and that was painful. I'm leveling up one now in Sword, which will hopefully be better because now there's Sandstream as an ability, which will shore up its special defense. Crustle, I like its design, and I still like Crustle a lot, but it's not my favorite thing to use. Golem I used a lot in older games, I haven't really used it in newer games. Lycanroc, when I used it, it was on, again, an awful team. And part of that's just unluckiness, but I don't use rock types often. Okay, Steel and Water are both going in the S tier. And those are staying in the S tier for sure. Steel resists almost everything. Steel's weak to Fire, Fighting, and Ground. And its neutral was Water and Electric. Gen 6 and onward, Dark and Ghost become neutral. But that's still a grand total of 7 types out of, well, obviously, well, yeah, because you can fight yourself too. So 7 out of 18 types are, 3 weaknesses, 4 are neutral, and the other 11 are all resists. So Steel is the premier defensive typing. I do like a lot of Steel types. Excadrill, more offensive. Ferrothorn, very defensive. Magnezone is one of my favorites. I've used Magnezone countless times in games. So Steel type is always a key one for me. It hits Fairy now super effectively, which is very big because you have to have a Steel or a Poison type, and I think Steel is just a better type. So it also, you know, can resist a ton of things. Another way to hit Rock type super effectively. So Steel's easy number one. Same with Water. Water has Electric and Grass weaknesses only. It's a lot of things. It's generally good. It's a good early game type. You're really only weak to Grass and Electric, but besides that, you know, Water can kind of just hit things because not a lot resist it. Grass and Water, you resist. Early game Dragon is not going to be there. You're not going to be seeing Dragon types early game, so. And Water's my favorite type. I've always loved Water types. A lot of Water types that I like. Starmie's cool, all the starters. Poliwrath. I like Kingler. What else have I used more recently? A lot of times I build around the Water starters, just because they're my favorite in a lot of gens. I'm not going to do that. I'll say that for like another one's possible. Not 4 messages on Discord. I'll check those later. So now I want to adjust this a little bit because I kind of wanted. I think I wanted lower the S tier. Do I want to lower the S tier or do I want to keep it like this? I kind of want to lower this tier just so it's more balanced in those tiers, but at the same time, I really like all those types. It's hard for me to say, no, this is a worse type, or I like this type less. Maybe I could lower Dark and Electric into the A tier. Maybe. Those would probably be the closest on the edge. Because Fairy, Ground, Steel, Water are almost a must in my opinion. Like, I think those are some of the best types just to have on a team. Now, maybe, I know competitively is way different, but this is just playing in-game, because I play in-game. So it's hard to say. Let me look at the type chart again for Electric. So Electric hits Water super effectively, and hits Flying super effectively. What else is Flying super effectively? Rock and Ice. Electric's my most common way to hit Water and Flying types, because I don't use Grass as much. Ice is a later game type. I don't have Rock as often to hit Flying, so. Even though those are the only things that super effectively, it's also an incredibly annoying type too, you know, again. So, I think I gotta keep Electric in the S tier for that. And then Dark, again, Dark is, yeah, I'm not gonna move anything. I'm gonna keep it like this. So, basically Dark, Electric, Fairy, Fire, Ground, Steel, Water. Those 7 types are the types I use the most. I generally try to have them on my team. Obviously, it's not always the case, because you have to dual type at least one of those. And generally you need, you know, Bug or something, Flying, Levitate easier to supplement the ground weakness here, because Electric, Fire, and Steel are all weak to ground. Water does hit it super effectively, but, you know, it doesn't resist. But, you know, Crocodile, well, I wish there was more hatred. I like to, you know, like Magnezone, Crocodile, and Black and White too. You know, and there you go, boom. That's 4 of the types covered right there. Newer games, I love Primarina too. That's one that I'd love to use. Like, if I get Crocodile, Magnezone, Primarina on a team, like, there we go. We've already got a great team here for me. But that's how I'm going to leave this. I'm going to keep fighting a tier lower, I think, because I don't like as many fighting types. I generally like a lot of Pokemon in the Dark, Electric, Fairy, Fire, Ground, Steel, Water. Then fighting an A tier, Bug, Dragon, Flying, Ice, putting in B tier, Ghost, Grass, Poison, Psychic, C tier, and then D tier is Normal and Rock. So this is a rough favorites list, right? I didn't want to, part of the reason I did tier list because I didn't want to edit the tier, like, specifically have to order the tiers, so. This is my top 7. Fighting is going to be after them. Well, I guess technically speaking I like Ice a bit more, but this is one where if I'm tier listing I'm dragging it down, because it's not just purely a pure what Pokemon I like of each type. Ice is almost the exception here. I guess Psychic in a way too. And Ghost, you could argue, you could swap those. But, so yeah. These are what I've got. So, I guess you could make, like, I want to always put Ice higher because I like Ice types, but Ice types just are difficult to use. That's the one thing that holds back, is just because there's no defense on an Ice type, it's really difficult for me to use an Ice type. You know, I rely on the dual type that they have for, and then I have to cover, you know, fighting, Fire, Steel, Rock weaknesses, which is already annoying because, again, if I have Bug and Flying to counter the ground types, now I've got a Rock weakness. Water, again, hits it super effectively, but it's not a resist. Fighting does resist though, so that's where fighting comes in, right? Is all those type electric, fire, and steel are weak to ground, so I need bug and flying types, which are weak to rock, so I need a fire type to cover that. Or fighting type to cover that. But yeah, you can see kind of how I build. I like these types a lot. Fighting and bug, flying, you know, supplement this. Dragon. Ice is like the type I try to use as much as I can, just because I like it. I will keep it in the B tier though. Ghost and Psychic I don't use as often. I generally have a Dark type. And I also have the thing about Ghost and Psychic because they're both weak to Ghost and Dark. So if I have a Ghost and Psychic type, then I've got double Ghost and double Dark weaknesses. And if I have a Dark type that covers that once, then I've got it. And if I got Psychic, I can resist Psychic as well with that. But that's still an extra. I've really only got one way to take Ghost out. I guess you can argue that's normally how it is though. So Ghost is one thing that if I'm going to double up on weaknesses on, or like have, you know, a bit of a weakness to, it's Ghost because I'm not really going to have a normal type on the team. And then Rock and Normal. I do use Poison and Grass and Ghost and Psychic a little bit, just not as often. And then Rock and Normal are the types I use like the least. That's basically how you can view this in a way as usage. The tier higher are the ones that I use often, and I use them because I think they're good, or I like them, or I like Pokemon from them. And the next two tiers kind of supplement to help with weaknesses and stuff. And then the bottom tier is types I don't use often. So, hope you guys enjoyed that. And yeah, something a little bit different. If you want to tier list types in the comments, then you can, and we can discuss, because that's what I really want to do is discuss this with people. You can also hop in the Discord server. I'll probably post this there at some point after the video's gone up, but I'm smart. I know if I post it there, people are going to not watch the video and just ask questions there, and I want people to at least watch the video. You can put this on in the background, probably should say in the beginning, but yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed, and if you enjoyed this, I'll do more of these with other topics that are probably Pokemon, but maybe other things related. I could do it with Beyblade as well if you guys wanted, since this is a Beyblade channel. But just other things in general, if you have any ideas. So yeah, I'll see you guys later.